Look at the Nairobi skyline. This is one of Africa's most competitive tech hubs, and for years it was the proving ground for a highly driven software engineer named Ibrahim. To his colleagues, he appeared ambitious and intellectually sharp. Inside, however, he was locked in a constant battle against an invisible force. Every line of code and every project deadline required exhausting willpower just to get through the day. This visualization shows the mismatch Ibrahim faced starting from a young age. Traditional school environments demand that information is processed in a rigid, linear sequence. Ibrahim's brain, however, is a scattered, nonlinear network. When linear instructions tried to interface with his mind, the sequence would simply break apart. Ibrahim possessed a deep intellect, yet his mind operated on an instruction set that did not match the rigid, linear flow of the standard classroom. He struggled with sequential subjects like mathematics and chemistry, leading to disorganized physical spaces and fragmented class notes. To survive academia, he developed extreme workarounds. When structured exam preparation proved impossible, he would transnight, staying awake the entire night before a test, relying on the panic of a deadline to force adrenaline into a system to sustain focus. Beyond the classroom, his body found alternative ways to cope. Since childhood, he maintained a habit of heavy, persistent pacing. His family saw it as simple restlessness, watching in wonder as he rarely sat still. That constant movement was actually a biological survival tactic. By pacing, his nervous system was subconsciously attempting to generate the dopamine his brain was failing to produce naturally. He carried these invisible struggles into his professional life. Executing the intense focus and planning required of a software engineer while unmedicated demanded twice the energy of his neurotypical peers. Relying on adrenaline spikes and physical self-stimulation was an unsustainable way to operate. The constant effort required to mask his impulsivity and emotional dysregulation made profound burnout inevitable. By late 2022, the combination of executive exhaustion and emotional strain became too heavy to carry. Recognizing he had reached a breaking point, Ibrahim chose to walk away from his stable career in software engineering. The following year became a period of intense isolation. He intentionally stripped away the expectations of the corporate world, giving himself the space to understand how his mind functioned when it wasn't forced into conventional structures. Removing these external pressures allowed his focus to shift toward a humanitarian purpose. He began designing technical solutions intended to serve communities and solve problems long after his own lifetime. Walking away from his career provided the necessary space for Ibrahim to stop surviving and start building based on his own priorities. He channeled this clarity into entrepreneurial action, launching betapsyche.org for personal growth. He founded Crafter Labs for technological invention and Crafter Studios for multimedia arts. Managing 3 separate platforms simultaneously pushed his executive function to its limit. In 2026, facing the weight of this massive workload, he finally received a formal clinical diagnosis of severe ADHD. Having a concrete name for the force he had fought for 26 years allowed him to process his early struggles and plot a precise map for his future. But diagnosis is rarely an immediate fix. His doctors first prescribed Concerta, a long-acting stimulant, which produced no noticeable change in his daily executive function. This diagram of a neural synapse shows why the medication failed. Concerta operates as a reuptake inhibitor, blocking channels so dopamine stays in the brain longer. But if your brain isn't releasing active dopamine into the gap, blocking exits has no effect. Desperate for focus, he turned to Magoka, which forces a sudden flood of dopamine directly into the synapse, temporarily quieting his severe symptoms. The biological tax of this substance was immense. The cathinone created extreme cardiovascular stress, followed by devastating mental and emotional crashes once the chemical flood receded. He realized that achieving actual balance required breaking this cycle of unguided self-medication and finding a sustainable pharmaceutical routine. Today, Ibrahim is working closely with doctors to safely step away from unregulated substances and properly titrate a prescription that matches his specific brain chemistry. He is also designing external scaffolding. Instead of relying purely on willpower, he is implementing visual organization and physical structural supports to protect his mental energy and focus. Managing severe adult ADHD requires a dual approach, correcting the internal chemical deficit while re-architecting the external environment. Navigating 26 unmedicated years while building software and launching 3 separate enterprises is a testament to his resilience. He is sharing his medical journey openly to directly challenge the silencing cultural stigma that still surrounds adult ADHD in Africa. As Ibrahim's medical support stabilizes, the technical development of Beta Psyche, Crafter Labs, and Crafter Studios can finally keep pace with the scope of his humanitarian projects.